Welcome to IEC 2020. This is our third session of the day. Today is November 17th. This is Assurance S12. The moderator is Brian Wood. Brian, please turn on your camera and your microphone.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last session of the day. As David said, this is Assurance. And we have three great presentations lined up for you. The first one here is towards creating an extension for patch management for ISO/IEC 15408 and ISO/IEC 18045 by Sebastian Fritsch and Javier Talion. Sebastian is the head of the laboratory for Secuvera in Germany, and Javier is with jtsec in Spain. I want to remind everyone that they can answer or ask questions in the Q&A below the presentation, and we will read those out and get your answers at the end. Otherwise, I will turn this over to Javier and Sebastian so that they can get going.
Nice. So thank you everyone for coming to this virtual session. This is Javier Tallón from jtsec speaking, and I have the pleasure to share this moment with Sebastian from Secuvera. We both are co-editors of the ISO Subcommittee 27 Working Group 3 technical report towards creating an extension for patch management for ISO 55408 and ISO 18045. During this session, we will present the current status and progress of our work. Please note that this presentation is very related with the next one by Gabor, showing two different approaches to the same problem. It would be better if you can attend to both. So, Sebastian, I give you the floor.
Yeah, thanks. Also for the warm words. Yes, the first part of the presentation will be run by Javier, but we will give you an overview. What is the background of the problem we would like to solve? You can see it here on the screen already. We will especially discuss the problem. I think it's a well-known problem in common criteria that sometimes we have certification versus the security of a TOE. And then I will continue with a short introduction of the current status of our ISO project and look a little bit into the practical considerations, how to apply it in a certification project. Okay.
Okay, so let me start providing you a bit of background. Next slide, please, Sebastian. Thank you. Everyone in the room knows that every day that passes, we are facing a more complex threat landscape with constant updating and patching. So it's no surprise that IT organizations in nearly all industries feel pressure to deliver value faster, get to market ahead of the competition, and continuously improve the customer experience. Patch management is one of the main concerns and drawbacks regarding certification. The time to market has been reduced dramatically in the last year, and it's required to adapt certification to take into account this. Indeed, certified products patch management was a hot topic at ISO Subcommittee 27 during 2017. There was a study period, and during this first study period, several presentations were carried out about this topic, but finally it was considered too difficult to achieve something in a reasonable time. But they also conclude that it's in favor of certification to value security. So it's a real world problem that needs to be solved, and we need to adapt. So in September 2019, I presented a report to the Working Group 3 to request the reopening of the study period to try to finally reach an agreement about how to handle the patch management issue. Next slide, please. Well, in this document, I tried to borrow some of the experience from the previous work to handle patches under common criteria, as well as other schemes approaches to this very same problem, to find the strongest points of each approach. After studying how this problem is handled in the different cybersecurity schemes, I reached the following conclusions. The first one is that we need to evaluate the capabilities of the TOEs to authenticate updates. The second one is that we need to somehow increment the assurance of the patch management and change control procedures through evaluation. The third one is that we need to use the joint forces of vendors, labs, and the evaluation authority also, of course, to make security a priority while saving the guarantees of certification. So in some way, easing the path to recertification when security is at risk. And finally, also, maybe a bit out of the pure methodological scope that we usually deal with under the ISO umbrella, we need also to put some trust on the developers and create fast tracks. Sebastian, please. Okay, so this is the current situation. We may have a certified common criteria TOE with known vulnerabilities, and of course, the risk counter will need to update it. Probably the vendor has already developed a consistent and tested solution to the vulnerability in a reasonable time frame. Vulnerabilities cost money to vendors, so they will make whatever is possible to provide tested updates. But the updates will not be certified. Certification, as we know, it's not free of cost, both in time and money. So probably they will be only recertified if strictly required by regulation. In these cases, the risk owner is not allowed to install the recently patched version of the TOE before the certification is finished. And of course, this problem is not limited to common criteria, but to any other security product certification where we certify just a snapshot of the TOE lifecycle. Next slide. In consequence, this transfers the decision to use either a previously certified or a recently patched version to the user of the TOE. And in other words, the risk owner has to run his own risk assessment to decide which version of the TOE use. If the risk owner needs to strictly adhere to some regulation where certified products are mandatory, he has to accept known vulnerabilities, which nowadays seems absolutely unacceptable, especially in very sensitive environments that usually are also the more regulated ones. The proposed patch management extension will have the following advantage for the different stakeholders. The first one is that the risk owners are supported to remove existing known vulnerabilities in TOEs in a fast and efficient way. The next one is that the regulatory body can request risk owners more effectively to install available updates to remove existing vulnerabilities. And finally, developers get a new tool to use common criteria more active as a qualification strategy, because more frequent certification results can be aligned with much more frequent product version releases. Next one. Just remember that the risk counter may demand for certified products, but they also demand for support processes. It's almost 2021, and we are still making our users choose between certification and security, between using the latest secure updated version over the last certified one with bugs. Next one. This is just for the sake of completeness. Of course, another option that was suggested during the study period was to, instead of dealing with patches, perfect the testing so products come out of the labs without absolutely no defects. This is what we call ATE perfect.1, but we feel that this will be too difficult for everyone. So I will let Sebastian explain to all of you what we have done until now. Sebastian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Javier. Yes, let me show you some of the technical details of what we have so far in our ISO project. So, yes, we have especially two parts in what we develop now in the ISO. We are working on a technical report. I show you the timeline on the next slide. But this first I want to introduce you to the general concept. We have two parts. One is introducing the building blocks, and we have in the technical report especially two mandatory building blocks. The first one is a new family called ALC PAM. So we want to emphasize the fact, or we want to look into details of the patch management process as part of the standard evaluation. So in the base certification, that's an augmentation in the first evaluation as part of the base certification. So that's for the assurance part. We will later look into the details. What are the requirements for the developers? And Javier will explain to you what are from evaluator perspectives the required tasks. But that's for the assurance part. So we need an augmentation on this one, on this side, and from the technical perspective, we also need the capability in the TOE that it's that the patch functionality, so that's possible to patch this TOE in the future to come from one version of the TOE to a next version. The next version is not in scope here, but we need the capability to have this update mechanism as already included in the base certification. So to introduce here a flexible approach, we focused on the security problem definition, and especially we introduced a set of objectives. This should be adaptable, so it can be applied for different technologies. But this extension of this SPD, this is the starting point for introducing what later can be the security functional requirements. We also have an optional set of SFRs in the technical report. So we want to ease the life of the developers of a security target or for a protection profile. But this is only an option because we are aware there are existing PPs and we don't want to get in conflict with this existence modeling of how they solve the update mechanism. So, but to have some common ground for starting, we propose in this TR that we should adopt this security problem definition, starting with the security objectives. That's the technical building points on the one hand, and on the other hand, the general concept of this concept, general concept is that when you augment this ALC PAM and have this technical capability for security patching in the TOE as part of the baseline certification, then there, in the second step, we give options in the TR for certification bodies how they can accelerate the process of the certification for updated TOEs. So we just call it options here because there are different policies and different certification schemes and different certification bodies, and we can't foresee all the different complexities. And so we just want here to give options in this TR how to proceed in the different schemes. yes, this is a short overview and what is part of the ALC PAM. So especially there are two key elements. One is the security impact analysis report. So that should be done by the developer for every patch. So this is an internal report, and this report should be part of the internal evaluation of the of the developer, and based on the patch management policy, what is the second key element in the patch management process. And then some decisions have to be done or can be done to, for example, start a recertification or just start a reevaluation of the TOE, or just release the patch without going to the certification body again. And what we also expect in this patch management policy is, for example, an end of support statement considering the TOE that was certified, so that also from this perspective, the users get some additional assurance how long the support of this TOE will be done, and it should be added to the perspective of the security target, where we do not have such a statement in general at the moment. Okay. Then, I already mentioned it before. We have this second part in the TR. We called it options for certification bodies, and these are at the moment under consideration, also in the ISO project, and we are especially working on the wording and on adding new options. I only want to mention maybe 2 or 3 of what we have here in the list. First is, for example, a fast track recertification, so that there is one idea is to have a queue at the certification body, so that there are maybe pre-allocated resources for handling those only updated TOEs where there is already knowledge on the side of the certification body. So this can be handled in a more accelerated way, for example. And another option is, that was heavily discussed in the last ISO meeting, is maybe there is no need for a full recertification or full certification of an updated TOE. Maybe it's sufficient from the risk owner's perspective that only a re-evaluation by the ITSF has been done, but the certification process can be skipped, so that there is only an updated evaluation technical report. And maybe this is enough assurance for the risk owners for some period of time during the update cycles of a TOE. And also other options we have for the search item here is also already included in the technical report. We have already templates how to run this analysis, and so there is a lot of guidance here in this work we're doing at the moment in ISO to support the process of the patch management and the implementation of patch management processes in accordance to what we have here as requirements in this technical report. So this is the timeline. This is more an organizational perspective on our ISO project. As Javier mentioned before, we started in the Paris meeting last year in September 19. There, the second study period was open, and then we had a discussion based on the study period results in the virtual St. Petersburg meeting, and there the working group 3 in ISO decided that we have enough content or good reason to start with the TR, and it was good at that time that we already had a merge of the existing ideas, so there was a good work that could be distributed as the first working draft. We collected a little bit of the feedback, and then in June 2020 we distributed this version for the review. And in the last meeting, this was in the Warsaw ISO meeting a few months ago, that we had heavy discussions on what are at the moment concepts that are not that harmonized. But I think we had good conclusions, and now we have a clear view on what should be in this TR and what not. And at the moment, we have a group, an extended group of editors, and we are working on the second working draft. This will be distributed in January next year, beginning of next year. And then hopefully there will only be 3 working drafts, and we can go to balloting in the second half of 21 next year. So fingers are crossed, but we hope we are able to catch all the ideas and the discussions from the last meeting and present a very good second working draft for the next meeting, for the next discussions. And these are only a few details what currently is under discussion. And when you will look into the second working draft, you will find there will be editorial notes on this, and this especially what we have here on the page will be discussed in the next meeting. So at the moment, we stopped the discussion in the last meeting, so that we need a wider view on what should be evaluated. So it should not only be what we have in ALC PAM from the evaluator's perspective, but we have to focus on, there is not only a patch, but there will be there's not only a TOE, but there will be a patch in the future. Honestly, we cannot evaluate this patch because it was not released, it was not developed, but we have to enhance the scope regarding ADV, regarding guidance evaluation. So what has to be done when we consider there will also be a patch in the future. But that's something under discussion at the moment. Maybe we will present it as additional SARs, or maybe as new requirement enhancement for the ALC PAM. So this is one discussion we will have. Another discussion is maybe we should add new security functional requirements for what I described before. We have this idea that we don't want to have a fixed set of SFRs, but we want to make an option for a developer of a security target or protection profile. And at the moment, we are discussing if we should go the direction, take CC Part 2 SFRs, or make it a little bit easier. It's my personal perspective on this, going in with extended component definitions and write our new set of SFRs. But this will also be discussed, I think, in the next meeting. Yes, the most important things. And then, yes, the question is, can we how to apply what was presented here. So we had the chance to publish again, thanks to Javier. He published our current working draft. So this can be downloaded here from this URL, and there you find all the content we have. It's important to emphasize the first working draft, so we will not find all the discussions we present here today, but you will find there our first working draft. And this is the guide, how to apply. First, you of course have to extend the ALC PAM component into your security target or protection profile. Then it's also necessary to also include the evaluator work units. We both have this in the draft of the TR, and then of course the security problem has to be extended, and there is a need for this set of SFRs. Maybe an existing PP has already the patch functionality, so maybe there is a need to adapt it to what we have as the objectives. But yeah, that's the main activities. And then of course there has to be some kind of preparation, or maybe an update of what is the existing patch, what are the existing patch management processes. But this can be found in the document, and there are the requirements regarding the ALC PAM.1. And there's also some guidance in the annex of the document. I think I have to skip these detailed requirements and hand over to Javier again. Yes.
Yes, right. We are running out of time. So there are also some specificities that I would like to tell you about from the evaluator's perspective. the most important one is that ALC-PAM includes its own evaluation activities. So there are some content and presentation requirements, mostly related with the patch management policies. So evaluators will need to look for example, a nice description of the processes involved in patch releasing, who is responsible for what, how the security impact of the changes is assessed, and so on. There are also requirements that mandate to describe the life cycle of the cryptographic keys used for patch generation, how they are stored, etc. As part of ALC-PAM, it's required that developers are able to self-assess the security impact of a patch. So evaluators will need some way to check this out. But of course, you may ask yourself how this can be done if there are still no patches generated, because it's the first time we are evaluating ALC-PAM. And we have thought that a good chance to gain assurance is like it's done in ALC deal for the delivery, maybe using dry run, or maybe performing sampling during site visits. So, for example, if site visits are included in the evaluation because the assurance level, the evaluators will be required to confirm what is stated in the policies. Next slide. Good news for everyone, Secuvera is already doing a pilot evaluation in the German scheme, so we are getting real hands-on experience of the feasibility of what was proposed, and of course, improving the contents of the technical report to make sure that it will fit real-world scenarios. So, regarding conclusions, the first one is that patch management is something that the product certification community needs since a long time ago. The second one is that we are doing it really, really fast because it's an urgent matter, and hopefully the final technical report will be approved by autumn next year, which is really, really fast for an international standardization process. Our third and fourth conclusion are directly related with the awesome support that we have received from the common criteria community, with contribution of experts all around the world, from the United States, Japan, Europe. We are also receiving input from other industry communities like Global Platform and Neurosmart, which will guarantee that the ISO technical report will uphold their use cases. And last but not least, the ISO technical report was accepted by ENISA and the UCC Adult Working Group as a way to access the critical update flow, which is absolutely in line with the recommendation or options for certification bodies contained in the technical report. And this is really a great success for the ISO and common criteria community that have been hard working to get to this point, and then when there is still a lot to be done. Next slide. I think it's the last one. Yeah, and that's all. Thank you very much. So questions and friendly discussion is always very welcome.